to me, science has to be attainable to the regular engineer. And like any engineer who's in a design office has to be able to look at my paper and understand what that is. Not write all these mega complicated equations that nobody understands what that is. Like, how do you even calculate that?
Hi guys, welcome to the Scientist Podcast. I'm your host Akram Al-Wahabi, and today our guest is Dr. Mauro Simao. He got his civil engineering bachelor's degree from High Institute of Transportation and Communications back in Mozambique, and his master's and Ph.D. from Kobe University in Japan. He's now working with Vector Renewables Japan as a technical advisor. As you will hear in the podcast, his research is based on seismic activity, and what better place to study that in Japan? I got to learn a lot about how engineering deals with earthquakes and how everything is basically built with the whole shaking process in mind. This one is definitely food for your brain, so don't go anywhere. And while you're listening or watching, hit that subscribe or follow button because it really helps a lot. Now let's get to the podcast. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Today I am with Mauro. And Mauro is a dear friend of mine. We met during some crazy times. It was it was awesome. We have a mutual friend, Nader, but he's not here in Japan. He's on the States now. Anyways, can you introduce yourself to us a little bit?
All right, so my name is Mauro, as Akram said. So we've been friends for maybe the last, 7 years? Maybe that was like 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah,
we were still in school.
Yeah.
Crazy times, different times for sure. I'm from Mozambique and happy to be here. Hey.
Okay, thank you very much. So, talk to us a little bit about your background. What do you study? What is your background in your studies, and what did you come to Japan for? Like, you did your master's and PhD here, right?
I did.
Yeah. So what were you doing before, and then what did you do in Japan?
Oh, wow. So essentially I'm a civil engineer, right? Civil engineer.
Yeah.
So I came to Japan in 2011 to do my master's and PhD. At the time, I had the understanding that I wanted to do both in civil engineering. And so again, to start from the beginning, literally, I was in Mozambique and I did my undergrad studies there, 5 years, regular civil engineering undergrad. And at that time, when I was about to graduate, I was not sure. I mean, I was interested in studying abroad, but I was not sure whether to pursue studies I was more inclined towards going to United States, Europe. But then, without any particular plan, Japan crossed my path. And long story short, I ended up here because the opportunity was really great to come here, but no particular plan, none whatsoever, no interest. I didn't know anything about Japan, really. I didn't. But I thought when the opportunity came that it was a good choice.
How did it just cross your path like this?
Yeah, so at the time, girlfriend, now not girlfriend only, but but at the time girlfriend, we were schoolmates. And now my wife.
Okay.
But at the time we were just dating, and we were schoolmates. And she told me we were thinking about the future and what to do under postgraduate school, all that stuff. And she had already gotten a scholarship to go to China. And she told me about the scholarship to Japan. And I was looking for other scholarships. And I just applied without any particular plan, nothing. Wow. And long story short, they just invited me to an interview, and pow, I just got the max scholarship. That would be just like that. Like,
That was it.
That was it. And then from that day on, then I had to retake Japan seriously because I was thinking about going to the States.
Yeah.
I was applying for the Fulbright scholarship.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for the results of the Fulbright scholarship. That's where my money was, right? And I'm like, well, whatever, Japan, whatever, I'll just apply. And then I get the scholarship to Japan.
Yeah. Which is basically, it's the Fulbright, but for Japan. Like
Japan.
It's basically the same thing, yeah.
Same. But then once I got the Japanese scholarship and now I'm gearing up to come to Japan, then I ended up getting the Fulbright too. That was weird.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was weird because I had invested so much of my time to go to the United States and get a scholarship. And then I get both, and then I go home and I tell my dad, like, Dad, you'll not believe this. Like,
I got
okay,
both.
like, I got both.
So why did you decide to come to Japan and just leave Fulbright? Like, even though like Fulbright, like let's say that was your first choice, right?
First choice was Fulbright.
Yeah. So why did you decide to stick with Japan and not
Yeah, good
go with
question.
Fulbright?
Credit to my dad on that one, not my vision. So that was a lot of that was related to what my dad told me at the time. Two things. Number one is because I already understood that I wanted to get my PhD, right?
Yeah.
And both scholarships gave a path to getting a master's and a PhD, but the Japanese scholarship was more specific in language. Looking, like, sipping through the documents and the specifics of it, there was a clear path, understandable path in the Japanese scholarship, the max one.
Masters and then PhD.
PhD and how to go about that, like graduate, reapply, do this. So I already understood, even being in Mozambique, what the targets were. But the Fulbright, the transition from master's to PhD was a bit fuzzy, a bit of the way the American education system is. So it was there, but it was very unspecific about funding, how much they would fund. So there was this. It was a bit imprecise. So my dad's advice was that coming to Japan would be, I would just probably lock it better than going to the United States.
I see.
So I was like, hey, Japan, why not? And then I chose Japan because of that, because of practicalities, really. Yeah, and it worked. I mean, yeah, I have a PhD today, so he was right. Thank you, Dad. You were right. I'll send this to my dad. So thank you, Dad. Just to give you credit.
Yeah. Okay, so you came to Japan, and what was your research about? What did, of course, masters is not so. Masters, you don't do a lot of research in it, right?
I now having a
Compared to
PhD,
PhD,
of course,
right?
I
Yeah.
think that's ridiculous, but yeah.
Yeah. But what was your masters in? Like civil engineering, but
Yeah.
was it like in a specific, field?
Field. Yeah, so then, so my master's was, and PhD too, was in structural engineering.
Structural engineering.
Yeah, general area, right? So you can, for those who are not familiar with civil engineering, we have maybe four major fields. One is transportation engineering. So just think about road networks and stuff like that. Hydraulics, you can think about dams, water systems, sanitation, all that stuff. We have geotechnical engineering. Maybe people don't think much about geotechnical engineering, but it's what I'm going to call underground engineering, foundations and stuff like that. And structural engineering, buildings, bridges, anything that is standing is structural engineering. So when I came to Japan, actually this was interesting. So in Japan, so in Mozambique, in a civil engineering course, there is no division between types of structures, let me put it that way. Like between, let's say, architecture and civil engineering. These are cousin specialities, right? But in Japan, there is a clear definition. Civil engineering in structural only, no, civil engineering specifically only speaks to public infrastructure. When it's private infrastructure, it's architectural engineering in Japan.
I
So
see.
buildings, it's architectural engineering. But dams, bridges, canals, and everything else is civil engineering.
Civil engineering. Okay.
So then I came for bridges. So my specific field was in civil engineering, of course. And I did so my research was related to reinforced concrete bridges. So at the time, what I wanted to understand was how essentially reinforced concrete bridges respond to seismic events. And Japan is the place for it, right?
Yeah. Why were you interested in this, even though you're in Mozambique? Do you have earthquakes over there too, or?
No, we don't. But actually, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I was like, I never heard of an earthquake in Mozambique,
No.
to be honest.
Not really.
Yeah.
Pure intellectual curiosity. Not
You were
there
just
is-
interested in it.
absolutely. And also, I thought that was probably one of the most difficult things to do in civil engineering. The demand is the demand. It's very demanding to understand. Earthquakes are humble any engineer, right? How do you deal with that?
Yeah.
Right? So I thought it was a very interesting intellectual challenge. Although in my country there is no particular civil earthquake engineering, but to me it was a very interesting problem. And also I understood at that time that I wanted to work in Japan. So it made sense because I wanted my career to be in Japan.
Okay.
So even though I was from Mozambique, well, it's a Japanese problem. So
Yeah, so okay, so you kind of planned it ahead,
I
right?
had.
That you wanted to work in Japan, and this
Yeah,
is
I
why
had.
you chose this part.
Yeah, yeah, both. Yeah, thinking about both things. Yeah, I wanted to do that. So, yeah, so concrete engineering, but specifically on seismic behavior, and yeah, and I did that for masters, basically. But for PhD is where I really honed it, and then really published my articles and stuff like that.
In like, in very simple words, can you talk to us about your research? Like, what did you do? Like,
Oh, okay.
I'm not an engineer. Like, I don't think many people who are listening to this are engineers. So very dumb it down for us.
No, I'm not gonna come on. I'm sure your audience is very smart, but I'll speak in just common terms because earthquake engineering engineering is here to serve society, right?
Yeah.
I think other than engineering, the only bigger calling of humankind or for humanity is like medicine, whether it be dentistry or anything like that, because you deal with people, right?
Yeah.
With pain. So, but I think engineering comes second because we create infrastructure for societies to exist, right? So there's this commitment. And so what I did was essentially, well, let me talk about masters first because maybe it's interesting to talk about what is the difference of doing research in masters and PhD.
Yeah.
So at the master level, what I did first was first level up my level of understanding in relation to the topic.
Yeah.
What is a reinforced concrete bridge? How does it work? How do you design it? And just level up to the understanding of Japan. Then for my master's, what I did was to create a very, very, very basic design model, right? Because again, a bridge, we have to come up with a model that represents what happens in real life in a bridge, right? This is how we design it because we cannot just go and objectively calculate. It's like a
Yeah.
right. It's like architectural drawings, right? It's always all those croquis and so it's the same in civil engineering. So I came up with this. I didn't come up with the model. Actually, my professor spent his PhD working on that model. No, this is even more interesting. My professor's professor created that model.
Really?
Yeah, Niwa Sensei is the full professor at Tokyo Tech here.
I
So he created this model in the 80s. It's called the lattice model. So Niwa Sensei came up with this model in the 80s, but it's a two-dimensional model to do structural analysis. Let me put it that way. But then my professor spent his PhD doing a 3D improvement of that model. He made it 3D. So when I came and I worked on the model, some third generation, during my master course, what I did was use the model that my professor came up with to address specific shapes in bridges. So if you drive along a bridge, sometimes you'll see that if you have like a pier or a column, sometimes it's rectangular or circular or hexagonal, whatever shape it has.
Yeah.
So in my master's, I came up with these basic trial and error models to address those particular shapes. Because a lot of times design codes, and this is an interesting problem I found out, they don't address those specifically. They have a lot of generalities. So they say, well, just assume that, let's say, it's a circular cross-section pier, and they say just generally assume that it's square. There are all these generalities. But
Yeah.
yeah, you would not believe that they do
Really?
that. Yeah, a lot of generalities.
Okay.
But then when you have an earthquake, that's a problem.
Yeah,
Right? You don't want that
It's
to
like-
be that general.
Yeah, you want it to be as specific
Like
as possible,
specific.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, generalities. A lot. And then,
Damn. Okay.
and I understood that problem that a lot of design codes, and you think like United States, Japan, Australia, Singapore don't have generalities. No, all of them have these generalities. So there is a certain fear factor I started
Yeah,
feeling once
obviously,
I read
yeah.
that. I was like, what? They do
You
this
don't
and
trust the structure right
I
now,
mean,
right?
like, I felt like,
Yeah. Oh, weird.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
yeah. They use safety factors, but still generalities. And so I came up with this idea of shaping the model. It's a simple model, but simple enough and applicable enough to give good output, right? So I worked on it to just try to match it to like circular cross sections and stuff like that, and other cross sections. And this is what I did for my master's, wrote my master's thesis, graduated. But then for PhDs, where the real work started.
Yeah.
because in PhD, I felt that I had to do two things. Number one, I had to really bring that model to a PhD level where fellow researchers, professors, and whatnot would see my model and really give it the respect it deserved at the PhD level. Because PhD is different from, I always say the PhD is not school. Because PhD, you become part of the society, right?
Yeah, you're a researcher right
You're a
now.
researcher and you judge by your peers. It's not your school,
yes.
your professors anymore. And you have to, step up your game. So first thing I did was for PhD was to just study. Like I remember the first 6 months of my PhD, I just went back to my lab and I sat and I studied the fundamentals of physics. Well, fundamental physics came later, which was an interesting experience, but fundamentals of mechanics, structural mechanics, mathematics, calculus, but at a PhD level, to be able to speak that language and refine my interpretation of structural engineering. Yeah, I needed to do that to really be part of the conversation. And then I published my first paper, and my first paper, which my professor says is my best paper, but hey,
Really?
he says that is that one, but whatever. I don't necessarily think
Okay.
that, but that was probably the one that speaks to him because I refined the model, and it was really good. We found we refined the model, me and him, of course. And the language was simple, but we were able to achieve a good level of sophistication. And we published. I'm very happy that it was accepted, and we didn't get a lot of criticism from reviewers, which was good. But then I still felt at that time that was very much related to what my professor did. I wanted to find my own path, something that spoke to me. What is my original contribution, right?
Yeah.
So other than just refining my professor's model, you know what I mean? And then, I need to do
You wanted to do your own thing.
my own thing.
Yeah.
So at the time, I guess, man, PhD is an interesting time where you can do things that you could never do let's say, even in high school. For example, when we were in high school, we studied physics, biology, and all these things, right? But we never really had time or enough information about that field to go back to the fundamentals, right? Because we're always trying to catch up with exams, tests, and make grade and all that stuff. But in PhD, I don't really have any exams and stuff like that, so I can just go back to what I liked about physics and mathematics and see how that can be useful to what I want to do. So what I did, I went back to fundamental physics, just the essence of it, that I learned in 8th grade, notions of energy and whatnot, what energy is, what is it. I mean, it was a very interesting period in my experience. And I started messing with that, see how I can work that around, what it would be the correlation between, but this speaks to earthquake engineering specifically because an earthquake is essentially a process of energy transformation and dissipation, right?
Yeah.
An earthquake is just energy, comes from the Earth's crust and then comes all the way to the surface, right? But what is that? It's energy, right? Essentially.
Pressure, yeah. Right.
But pressure is also a manifestation of
energy, right?
Even
Yes.
humans are a manifestation of energy, right?
Yes.
So energy. I mean, we can talk about that in physics, in medicine.
Yeah.
But it's energy. What powers our body? It's energy. Food is a source of energy.
Definitely, yes.
Definitely energy, right? Fundamental concept, right? Of biology, physics, just energy.
Yeah.
So then I started thinking about structures in terms of energy.
Yeah.
It's just energy. So let me think of an earthquake in terms of energy. This is what I started thinking. So how can I describe this energy transformation process in a physical and mathematical way? That became my question. So then I started pursuing that. And I left the model aside. I would use the model for just the simulations and the design, but the concepts, I would work more on the concepts of energy.
So you went deep.
I went back to physics.
Went back really deep. Okay.
Physics, high school physics.
Nice.
Yeah, high school physics. So my teachers of physics, thank you for the physics classes.
Yeah.
So but I wanted simplicity because my understanding, and I would always have these arguments with my professor, these discussions. To me, science has to be attainable to to the regular engineer. And like any engineer who's in a design office has to be able to look at my paper and understand what that is.
Exactly.
Not
Right.
write
Yeah.
all these mega complicated equations that nobody understands what that is. Like, how do you even calculate that? Right. I think I took a lot of.
Can I ask you a question?
Please do.
Like, since you're talking about this, the first time you caught a paper, like a scientific paper,
Yeah.
did you feel lost or no?
No, absolutely.
Right.
I didn't
Like-
understand anything.
Yeah, me too. Like, first scientific paper when I saw, I was like, this is English, but I don't understand it.
I
right?
didn't understand anything.
Yeah. How did you deal with this?
Yeah, good question.
Because you were just saying like a scientific paper should be, you know,
Understandable,
understandable for any engineer, right?
Yeah.
So what did you do in order to make your paper, you know, like more relatable to any engineer?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Yeah, thank you that you asked me that question. I think on my end, to understand the papers that I was working on, I had to break it down in edible chunks. So first understand the concept, then understand the specifics. So I would read the same paper over and over again until that made sense to me. Also, I would try to create a picture in my head as to what that paper spoke about. So, for example, if I write in a paper, if I just say this, we had the seismic motion, and then we registered the P waves 10 seconds before. 10 seconds before we registered the S waves. It doesn't make any sense, right? The typical person will not understand what I said.
What is he talking about?
But if
Yeah.
I say, we had an earthquake, and 10 seconds before we felt the ground shaking, our seismometer registered some sort of like movement in the earth. Now that makes sense, right? I said the
Exactly.
same thing.
Oh, okay.
I said the same thing.
This is okay. This is a very good way to go about it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then I tried to build this type of understanding in my head, reading this weird way of saying things and trying to understand in humanity, in human terms.
Yeah.
What does that mean? And once I was able to do that enough, I could essentially hold the phenomenon. I wasn't lost in the mystery of words. I mean, because you still want your papers to be published, so you have to write in that manner.
In that manner, yeah.
But you still have to do the research yourself, and you need to be able to handle it. So I did that. I would just create these mental images to what that means. So if somebody says something, somebody spoke about, for example, in one of my papers, I used calculus. I would use integration, for example. I mean, in calculus, they will talk about like second order integration, third order, or whatever. But all one needs to understand is that we have, for example, if we want to talk about, which we all learn in high school, if we want to talk about integration is just sum. That's it.
Yeah.
So if I have a graph that has y and x axis, and there is some sort of graph there, if I just close the graph, that area is integration is just the summation. What is that area? What you can measure it with your scissor if you want, not scissor but ruler if you want.
Yeah.
Integration just means that it's just that area. But our professors and teachers of mathematics will not say that. They'll talk about integration, first order, second order.
Yeah.
Tricky, right?
Yes, I remember math. Like I thought math was fine and nice until I had my last year of high school test, and
Then they started doing stuff like that.
that was like, damn, no, I don't like.
Yeah, they do that.
Yeah.
They do that, and I never understood that. This is probably why I'm an engineer, not a mathematician. But this is what I did, and then
Yeah.
I just went about it, creating this mental image, but of course learning how to write in that manner for the paper, of course.
I mean, yeah, you have to play the game. right?
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah, I have to
exactly,
play the
right?
game.
Yeah. So, okay, if you can continue, like when you were talking about your
Well,
research,
so
right?
anyways, so
Yeah.
energy, right? Back to physics, and I went there, and that was interesting. And so what I did that was just mine was try to explain an earthquake in terms of in a bridge, of course, of energy transformation and dissipation. Very simple. Okay, there is some sort of shaking. That energy is transferred from the earth to the bridge, and what happens to the bridge? Find some sort of predictability model that says like when it's an earthquake that is like A, it happens this. When it's B, it happens this. When it's C, it happens this. And that was this.
And that
essentially-
was-
yeah. That was my part.
Nice. How safe are we from earthquakes? It's a very general question, but like, it really blows my mind that
Yeah.
in Japan buildings just shake.
Yeah.
Like huge skyscrapers,
Yeah,
they shake.
yeah, which is a good thing that they do.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Like if this was like back in my country or whatever, like buildings will just collapse because they're not built to withstand any shakes, right?
Yeah,
What's going on? I heard like they're building springs into it, right?
yeah,
Like,
sometimes.
yeah. So can you
Dampers.
explain that a little bit?
Okay, so
Like, wow, you
it's,
know?
it's good that buildings shake, and
Yeah.
and it's an interesting topic. I went to this. This was my last conference when I was a PhD student here at Tokyo University, where I was doing research on. I was doing my research on issues of deformation of structures, right? So how much it deforms and it comes back. But for example, when we have a typical, say, reinforced concrete structure, it's able enough to deform. But in a place like Yemen, you have a lot of masonry, you have a lot of non-reinforced concrete structures, right? And so in the case of a city like Sana'a, I've spent my time reading a little bit about Sana'a. What you have is just these blocks being piled up one on top of the other.
The old city, right?
The old city.
Yeah.
So, for example, in those cases, so let's talk about energy. So when you transmit energy to those blocks, between one block and the other, there is just cement.
Cement, right? Yeah.
But that cement cannot be to hold the connection, the bond between this block and this block.
Yeah.
So if that's not this just moves itself, right?
yeah.
So see, in a very simple term, we understood what is the process of energy transfer and dissipation. Dissipation is this. Because, but if you introduce a reinforced, a rebar, steel bar, then it will not dissipate because you will keep it together. Right? This is why you introduce rebar.
This is why, like, you put steels
steel,
inside.
because
like,
steel
these
ensures that the bond continues, and also steel assures that even if it shakes, it can deform and not collapse. So we think about collapse too. This deformed, but it didn't collapse.
walls. Okay, I never thought of it this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always thought like, I really never thought about this. Like, why do you have steel inside? Like, I thought it's just good to kind of hold this cement around it.
No.
But I never thought about like if it shakes, it would still hold.
Yeah, it holds. So steel is very important.
Yeah.
Very, very important. And so, so in relation to earthquakes, it becomes even more important because that steel bar is what will ensure that even when this deforms, it will still remain in place. So how safe are we from earthquakes, especially in Japan? I would say that from typical earthquakes, we are safe. Typical, I would say like magnitude like 5, 6, or whatever, 4, 5, 6. But from very strong earthquakes, we're not safe. Unfortunately. Sorry, guys, but we're not
probably.
safe. Sorry, guys.
Let
This is what
let-
happened in Fukushima.
Yeah, right. I was about to. Let me ask you one question. What was your when did you experience your first earthquake, and how did you feel like? Your job is to manage this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So how did you feel like with the first earthquake, and was it a big one?
The first earthquake I felt was in 2000 and I think maybe 2012. So I came to Japan to 2011, and it wasn't a big one, but
Was that after like the Fukushima thing? Or
it was after the Fukushima.
After the
thing.
Fukushima, okay.
Yeah, there was an earthquake in Kobe, but not very strong. But I was intrigued as to. I wanted to see that with my eyes, right? How does the building respond? How does it shake in this direction, up and down? And I wanted to understand that.
Yeah.
So as it's shaking, I wasn't fearful. I was just trying to understand how this is shaking.
You were analyzing
I
it.
was in a very weird way analyzing it. Yeah, I remember that to this day. Well, now when it shakes, I'm just bored.
What time was it? Do you remember?
I think it was at night, maybe 11 or midnight. But it didn't shake for too long, maybe 10 seconds.
Yeah, for me it was similar, but honestly, I was never interested. Like I thought I was sleeping, right?
Yeah.
So and I was dizzy,
Yeah.
and I thought like, why am I getting dizzy? I felt that I was getting dizzy, and I was like, I'm sleeping. How am I dizzy?
That thing is
And it's just shaking. And until now, I never really thought of how is the shaking going, this way, that way, or like which way. So there are different kinds of shakes, or
Yeah, so there are
like-
different kinds of shakes. So what defines the shake is the wave. What we learned in physics in high school again. Remember we were learning about waves.
yeah.
So an earthquake is just a wave. So you can have, well, let me just put it this way. It can shake in this direction, up and down, and it can sway literally like a wave. Let me put it that way to put it simply. So, and it's very complex. It's very chaotic. There is no specific rule. This is why, and also, an earthquake is never an earthquake. We usually have so we have the main shock, the foreshock, and aftershock. So main shock is the biggest one, and then the one before the biggest one, and the 101s that follow the biggest one, right? So depending on the type of what type of shock it was, it depends. So it will never necessarily be the same. So it can be this way, or it can be the mix of all of those forms.
I'm really one of the things that really scare me about Japan. Japan is really safe, right?
Yeah.
Until it comes to natural disasters.
Yeah, true.
It's crazy. Like,
But Japan is a dreamland for civil engineers because civil engineers want to challenge themselves because every difficult problem in civil engineering you will find here. Whatever your field is, hydraulics.
is that a thing? Is that a good thing?
It's a great thing. I mean, it's very. I mean, to me as an engineer,
I
it's
got a job, right?
Yeah. There is always going to be a job here.
Yeah.
Every difficult problem you'll find here. So, for example, people fear earthquakes a lot. For me, the scariest thing are typhoons. For example, the scariest event I've felt, natural event here is typhoons.
Really?
Because a typhoon, because an earthquake comes from top to bottom, and the shaking comes from the building essentially functions like this. It's on a steady base, and from top to bottom, when the energy gets to the top, it's reduced and it's dissipated. So it shakes like this.
Yeah.
Right? But what a typhoon does, it comes in this direction and it twists the building. So when you are in a building that is going through a strong typhoon, you can literally hear the beams moving and twisting and churning. And so the typhoon does this to a building. So to me, it's more scary to be in a building where there's a typhoon going. So one of the interesting experiences I had was when I was working in my previous company in a design office. Once I was literally sitting there in Osaka, there was a typhoon, and I'm with my fellow colleagues, all engineers, and the building is literally like twisting and churning,
Twisting.
and we're doing calculations on the structure. And we all stopped like, and I thought to myself, let me just check my calculations.
If this is actually,
if this is cool.
fine, yeah.
Yeah, it does this to a building. It's scary. To me, it's scary.
Can you count like exactly what wind strength could actually collapse a building?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to design to that. So usually when we design a structure, we design either to two levels. Number one is service. So service is what we do every day. When we walk in a building, or say a building, you have like 100 people walking in a bridge and the bridge starts shaking, right? But that's not uncomfortable. It should not be uncomfortable.
Yeah, it shakes a bit.
But if it shakes a lot, we have a problem, right?
Yeah.
So we have to design to that service level where people can use and feel comfort using the building or the bridge or whatever.
I see.
And the second one, the most important one, is collapse. So collapse can be caused by any load, wind, earthquakes, self-weight, or whatever.
Too many people.
Too many people.
yeah.
Vibration, for example. This is why in a bridge, you never want an army crossing the bridge marching. You don't want that. You have to forbid that. This is why a lot of bridges have signs forbidding platoons from to marching on top of the bridge. Because that creates a specific wave. They march in a specific wave.
Yeah.
And the bridge also vibrates. And so if the wave of the bridge, the
If
natural
they-
wave, if they match, then it increases
It
exponentially,
amplifies.
and then it collapses.
Damn.
So they cannot march. And if they march, they cannot march in synchrony. They have to march in, or you have to
Like
do
they
something-
just move.
you have to break it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why
Damn.
you have some bridges and it's
Yeah.
forbidden to have armies or something passing by or marching.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the wave.
I see. A bridge that always shakes, and I'm like, why is this built like this? Is like, do you know Tokyo Dome City?
Yeah, I know.
So there's a bridge from the station to Tokyo Dome City, right?
Yeah.
It's Suidobashi Station,
Yeah.
right? And it's just people like moving across. It would start to shake, like you
Yeah.
could feel it shaking.
Yeah.
And I'm always thinking, like, was this really designed like this? Was it designed to shake like this?
Yeah, and actually that's a very interesting problem.
Yeah.
So two things I would say. The first one is that the reason it shakes is precisely what I said about the armies.
Yeah.
Because people have a certain tune.
Oh.
when they walk, and then it creates a certain wave that the bridge vibrates to. It's just a natural phenomenon. And the second thing is material dependent. So I would say that probably that bridge is a steel bridge, so steel vibrates in a larger way, so the waves are larger than concrete. This is why it vibrates in that manner, because it's steel, probably. But vibrating is not necessarily a problem, provided that it's not uncomfortable to the people.
Yeah,
on top of
it's
it.
not that uncomfortable. It's not uncomfortable, but like, you know,
Yeah, but what you do for that, you use dampers, like springs. So they have springs. So they have to fine tune the springs. Just like any car spring or whatever, like bridges have springs too.
yeah, this is like something I've always wondered about. Like, I see bridges and springs underneath
Yeah.
them, right? Do these springs, are they changeable, or they're just like, they're built there and then they just stay there?
They're not changeable as a regular spring would be changeable, like let just replace the whole
Yeah.
thing. But whatever comprises them is changeable.
It's changeable. So
Yeah. The steel portion of it, the outside
Yeah.
portion of it is not, but whatever comprises them inside is changeable
oh, okay, I see.
in regular maintenance. Yeah.
And this was like the most engineering I've heard in, I think, in my entire life.
And this is the most engineering talk I've done in a very long time.
Really?
Related to bridge engineering, yeah, I haven't done that in a few years. So yeah,
I'm glad like you're sharing all
I've
this
been very happy to
information
talk
with
about
us,
bridge
man.
engineering.
Okay, so if we can go back to your PhD, I think your research, I think you enjoyed doing this research,
Oh,
right?
it was great. It was a great experience.
Yeah. So, what other things did you enjoy about doing PhD or like PhD life? Was there like things that you really loved, you really enjoyed?
Yeah, I always say that PhD was probably the best experience I've had, whether that be in academia or work. What I enjoyed, other than the research itself, was I'm gonna call it mind expansion, because I could really see my way of thinking changing in comparison to before. That experience expanded my mind in a way that I would never imagine possible. The way I go about problems, the way I think about things, how deep I think about things. And also, it put me in this box where I'm always comfortable not having certainty. So I always operate without all the information, and I'm okay with that. I'm not uncomfortable with that. And also, I always operate in uncertainty without any uncertainty, meaning I can model uncertainty.
Like you can deal with problems now.
I can totally
right?
do a problem.
Right.
And I'm not uncomfortable, not no. It's okay.
Right? Like research is basically finding new information, like finding about
Yeah.
something that is known.
Yeah.
You're trying to find a lot of more information
Yeah.
about it, and it introduces like this, like you said, like expands your like way of thinking.
Way
and
of
all,
thinking,
right?
and also I'm exposed to a lot of stuff that I didn't think. I was exposed to a lot of stuff that I didn't think before. Even language and with the way I express my ideas. I never thought how complex it is to express ideas, for example. It is actually very complex, expressing even simple ideas. I learned that there is no such thing as common sense. Common sense is not common. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like you have to always like, how can I say, like know how to frame your words.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
in
yeah.
order to make them understandable to other people, right?
Yeah, it was very, and also when I was doing PhD, I like the freedom of thinking, because I'm not worried anymore about grades and stuff like that. So I like the conversations I had with my peers. Those were high level conversations, even if we were not in the same field, but fellow PhD students like you, like Nader, different fields, but the level of ideas and conversations was something else. And I loved being exposed to that. So yeah, it's very addictive.
It's very
very,
neat.
very. It's not even about being smart anymore, but are these people who engage with this level of thinking and science, and then you hear what they have to say. Wow, mind blowing.
I heard a saying, I don't know who said that before, but it's better to be the dumbest person in a room full of smart people
Yeah.
instead of being the smart person in a room full of dumb people, right?
It's true.
And I always believe in that. This is why I'm even doing this podcast. Like I
Yeah.
try to, surround myself and see people like this engineering talk today. Like I never I was like I never knew about all of this, right?
Springs right in the
Yeah,
bridge.
like damn. Yeah, that's why
Right
you
in the
have
mechanic,
like,
yeah,
right?
those things,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is why you have steel inside like buildings and
Yeah.
cement and whatever. Yeah, very interesting.
Mind
right?
blowing. Yeah, that was very interesting.
Yeah.
Having conversations with you guys, it expanded my way of seeing life. I thought I was already an open-minded person, but I think I'm much more open-minded so today. and being exposed to ideas in medicine, which is your case, ideas in business and management, having conversations with not only engineering, and even concepts that I applied in engineering, I learned elsewhere. So it was very, very interesting.
Sometimes you get inspired by a random thing that someone says, right?
Yeah,
Like, and
yeah.
you can apply it in your
Yeah.
own field, and like you said, like high level conversations,
High-level
like
conversations.
inspire you, right?
Yeah. And I still carry that to this day. I always operate with that from my PhD
That
student days.
mentality,
Yeah.
yeah. So, you enjoyed the conversations, the different way of thinking. Um, Anything specific about Japan that you enjoyed during that, like because you moved from Mozambique to Japan, and
Yeah.
was there something specific to Japan that you enjoyed a lot? And thinking, like, especially since you said like you had the opportunity to go to the States, but you kind of let that go to
Yeah.
do your PhD in Japan. Do you think that's something that you did? Did Japan bring another taste to your PhD, another
Oh, for
flavor,
sure,
I
it
guess?
did. Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
The first thing that, maybe I would say two things. The first thing that Japan brought was the fact that Japanese academia is very conservative. More academia is already conservative, but Japanese are
Even more.
even more.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting challenge to operate in an extremely conservative environment, and not being Japanese, right? Not being a Japanese person.
See, like a little bit earlier when we were talking, you told me like you went. How can I say? You started thinking freely during your PhD
I did,
and
yeah.
going outside of the box,
Yeah.
basically, right?
Yeah.
How free were you? Because in a regular PhD, like in Japan, like you're not that free, right?
That's true, that's true.
So how did you get to manage this balance? How did you balance it out?
Yeah, that was so. Pain is a good teacher, guys. So embrace your pain. So I learned that through pain.
Yeah.
So when I was a master's student, when I wrote my master thesis, my professor told me to, at the time, in a very short period, to write this paper to this very prestigious journal in our field, right? But I did that more out of obedience than perception that, or understanding that my paper had enough quality to be accepted. But I still went with it because, again, you have to follow what you're told, right? Especially by your supervisor.
Yeah.
But I thought that was not a good idea. And then my paper was rejected. And that was very painful. That was a very painful experience. I had this, I never failed in school and like just generally. And I guess that was the first time I experienced the idea of failing in school, right? And that was very painful. And when PhD started, the first thing that I understood is that if I did not take hold of my own whatever PhD experience, I would have a big problem. So I had to do something about it. So I was just bold, but guys, maybe you should not do what I did. I went and I had a conversation with my professor. I told him to trust me that I had these ideas. I exposed my ideas to him, and I asked him to trust me. And he looks at me, he's like, okay, just go with your ideas.
Really?
Yeah, really. I went to his office. And I told him, like, I didn't think that, for example, so freedom, right? I didn't think that engaging in a traditional way in Japanese academia would be a good strategy. I spoke about strategy. So my professor said that, okay, the first article that I would have to publish would have to be in that journal, right? My article was rejected. And also, guys, good tip: don't give up. That article that was rejected the first time, I went back, I rewrote it, and it was accepted. And it's the one that my professor says that
Really?
it's my best paper. Can you imagine?
Nice.
Same article, like
Same article,
same
but
article.
like you had
Same
to kind
meaning,
of
the
fix it.
same research, but different way of writing, and I improved it
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the analysis is the same. But I wrote the article again, sent it to the same journal, accept. Interesting, right?
Yeah. Never give up. Yeah,
Never give up.
yeah.
Never give up. So the way I balanced my freedom was negotiating with my professor. I told him, let me run this. And he let me run it. But when he gives you that freedom, he will expect you to deliver.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah, he gave me the freedom, but he was always checking, like, okay, is it coming? Is it coming? Is it coming? And thank God it came. So, but yeah,
Okay, so
risky, but hey, you gotta do something.
yeah. Okay, so this is what one of the points? What was the other one? Like you said,
The second one was managing my freedom, what I'm gonna call managing my freedom. So, okay, now I negotiated my freedom with the entity that would stop me from having freedom, which is my professor.
Yeah.
But then I have my freedom. So how do I manage my freedom within my freedom? So what I would do is I would always discipline my my let's say my ideas with achievability. So I would not grant myself full freedom. I would grant myself enough freedom to think about the ideas, but I would then ponder against achievability. So I would always try to balance those out. Is this what I want to do? Yeah, but is this achievable? Yes, no.
And this is very important. I
Yeah.
think this is where many PhD students,
Yeah,
lose touch and
Yeah.
kind of hurt themselves.
Yeah.
It's when they aim too high
aim too high.
and then basically come crashing
Yeah.
down or whatever.
Yeah.
It's very important what you
Very
just said. Like
important.
you gotta know what you can you achieve it or not. Is it
Yeah.
achievable or not?
Yeah. And one thing that I can say now, 5 years after I finished my PhD, that I thought at the time, is that once you have your diploma, nobody cares about what was the what was the now. So what was the information contained on your paper? The most important thing is that you publish the papers and you have your PhD diploma. This is what separates the waters. So looking at what I thought at the time, going back to being a PhD student, D1 or D2, I think I kind of like understood that. It wasn't so important what was written there. It was more important that it was good enough, and like of course he has to pass a certain bar of quality. But once he passed that level, to me it was good to go. And it was like, and if the paper was accepted,
That means it's good enough, right?
Published.
It's peer reviewed.
Peer
so
reviewed.
yeah.
and man, I got a lot of whoopings with peer reviewers. I did, but as long as they were accepted, good.
Yeah, you good.
So
Okay.
that's what I did, and then I published my papers. In engineering, it's 3 peer reviewed at least, and that's
Yeah,
it.
so that's a great thing, right? Okay, so if I can ask you like again about we talked about like what was fun, what was good about Japan, right?
Yeah,
What sucked about your PhD? Like,
that was not good.
what was difficult?
Ah.
What made it difficult for you?
All right, man. Maybe I'm one of those people who will give the answer that will suck, because actually my PhD was 95% good. I was that lucky that my PhD was, because the difficult things about my PhD, I leave them as a master student. So when I got to PhD, I already honed them. So, for example, but to get to your question, what I would say that was difficult in my PhD was essentially funding, money. Because I wanted to go to more international conferences and stuff like that. But money was always difficult. But my professor, God bless his heart, always used even his own money to help me out.
Really,
Yeah, his own personal money, yeah, to help me out. Yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah. So peace out to you, Mick Sensei, for doing that. I'm his first PhD student, so
Really?
yeah, first PhD
Damn.
student, associate professor. So yeah.
Okay.
So that was our first PhD. So
Amazing,
money, I
nice.
think, was the most difficult one, and also dealing with the politics of dealing with the politics of academia. is difficult.
Academia, generally speaking, is very political, right?
Yeah.
Like you gotta, like you said, like you gotta hit a certain balance. You gotta know how to, sail through these weird
Yeah.
waves.
So I would say those two, but other than that, I think I actually had a pretty good time.
Did you had some lows where you were kind of frustrated with the whole situation or no?
Oh, of course. When I was D2, I had this period where when I was D1, I pushed a lot. I worked to push my first maybe 2 papers and peer reviewed papers. And when I was in the middle of D2, once those 2 peer reviewed papers were published, I had this period of about maybe 6 months where I went to a lot of conferences and stuff like that, where I didn't produce new science. I was just fed up with the whole thing for whatever reason. Yeah, so at that time I spent a lot of my time.
How did you get out of that? Like,
I mean, I would love to say that I got out of that by my own volition, but it was just maybe a mix of luck and maybe more a sense of mission, because after that period, when I became like early D3, I didn't have any new ideas, but my papers I had enough papers to graduate, right? But one day my professor told me I had this old idea that I discussed with my professor when I was D1, and then one day we having this conversation about that idea, and he just said like, there is a conference at Todai for PhD students who are about to graduate. You think you can implement that idea that we spoke about 2 3 years ago? Like, yeah, why not? Let me just see if I can just go about it. And like that created this sparkle that made me
Again.
go back to it.
Uh,
And then I put together that paper, and uh, and then I just used that momentum also to compile my doctoral thesis. This is what took me out of it. That conversation with my professor. But yeah, I think it's that. But just pure luck.
yeah, I mean, uh, did you use any kind of, I don't know, activities, techniques? Because I don't know, for me, like I didn't do masters here, right? So I came to do PhD.
Which I think is very difficult.
Right, it's very difficult to just jump and do PhD at once. It's like, and especially what I did was tissue engineering, which
Yeah.
is crazy. But not just me, I know many other people who actually do things to help them out, when they're going into this
Yeah.
deep kind of depression, for
Yeah.
example, or like when you can't get good data, right?
Yeah.
Or like something that goes wrong. Like,
daily event.
right? So
Daily event.
what would you do to motivate yourself back again?
I don't know. Actually, when I didn't have good data, it didn't frustrate me. I just accepted that. I don't know. Maybe I was crazy or something, but I just thought
was
that
like,
that was just
bad data, bad data.
bad data, whatever. Then I would just go home and go about my day, and I would
Yeah.
come back the next day. It never depressed me, not once.
What you said earlier, like a sense of mission, like
Yeah,
that's sometimes, yeah, that could be a very good motive. Like
Yeah.
if you know, like no, there's like you just gotta do it.
yeah, yeah.
So I think that's also one of one of the things that it makes you
Yeah.
push through.
But I would still say that a lot of my stuff had to do also with luck. Because even to this day, when I look back, I cannot just say that it wasn't that deterministic where I just woke up and decided, yeah, I'm going to make it happen. No, maybe luck. Or maybe also, I don't know.
I don't think it's just luck, Mauro. Like
took it in a
you're
way that,
like
I was like, whatever, man. Let's just do this.
you're great.
I didn't really, beat myself a lot. I was
Okay.
like, whatever, man. They didn't come. I'm coming tomorrow,
Yeah.
and then I would just come the next day. And there was a daily event where you wouldn't just. I was doing the lattice model. I remember I failed every day for like 6 months, and I was like, one day it's gonna work. And then the day it worked, my professor came running to my table. Like, how did you get this? I'm like, professor, I have no idea. I just made it work.
It worked. Yeah. Well, this is great.
But no, I didn't. And I didn't
Yeah.
beat me down. I guess because also I had a very good social structure, friends and stuff like that. So that kept me very positive. So even when I went and I met them, saying, nah, when we came here to Tokyo, we met you. It was always just funny, laughing about our misery. So when I went back on Monday, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I guess back to it.
So you gotta surround yourself with people who can, even if you don't feel it directly, but it's
People on the same mission.
right. You rub off their energy, right?
Yeah.
So if they're
Definitely.
positive, if they keep on doing their things, then
Yeah.
you would too do the same
Yeah,
thing, right?
even in difficult moments, when we are on the same mission,
Yeah.
there is this vibe of positivity that is created. I mean, when we laugh off about not getting, I mean, it's a bad thing, but that's how what to do.
Yeah, what can you do, right?
Took
Yeah.
back again on Monday.
Yeah.
I think I did that, but just friends.
Yeah. Okay, so if you would give one advice to somebody who wants to do their PhD,
Yeah.
what would it be?
Yeah, okay. That's a good question. I think about it differently. Let's say, so I finished my PhD maybe five and a half years ago. So the way I see it today, 5.5 years later, and like the day I graduated is very different. So I think let's speak to what I see today. I think the most important thing is to have an understanding as to why you're doing a PhD. Because if you have an understanding as to why you want to get a PhD, it will always be a very fulfilling thing. And I'm saying that because 5 years past my experience in PhD, what I do today is not in any way related to my PhD education, the formal part of it, not related. But all the other things that I learned during my PhD are the things that guide me today. So my PhD worked for me. Although I'm not doing bridge design anymore, whatever education, interactions, and all the things that were positive about, also negative about that experience, shaped my my day-to-day life today. So my PhD definitely bumped me up. So if you do not have an understanding as to what you want to get out of PhD, you will be locked in that PhD bubble, because a PhD is a very strong bubble. Academia is a very strong bubble. You do that research, you're committed to that. So obviously you want to be in that. But a lot of times to grow, even as a researcher in general who has a PhD, you have to get out of that bubble to work in other things. I have a PhD in bridge engineering, but I work in energy now. But so I had to, and I write articles related to energy today. I still publish, but I learned how to publish and write articles during my PhD, studying things related to concrete and lattice model and all this stuff. So, but because I was able to transfer those things that I got out of my PhD, it still serves me today. So an understanding of that, because you don't want to be trapped in what your PhD created. So I would say that.
So what you're saying is like make sure that you know why you're doing your PhD and
Yeah.
make sure that you would have transferable skills
Yeah.
that you learned during your PhD that could serve you if you continue in that path or in any other path,
in
right?
other path, yeah.
I see. That
Even
makes
if you don't fully understand it in the moment, but just have a basic idea, then you will refine it. I think you refine it.
I
I'll
see.
certainly refine it.
Okay. One more last question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, would you recommend people to come do their PhD or like their postgraduate studies in Japan?
I recommend Japan because the Japanese educational system is one that fosters the student and wants to teach the student the science, right? So it's built towards the student, around the student, to make the student grow. So I would totally recommend Japan. Absolutely.
Okay, so this is Dr. Mauro, and thank you guys for joining us today. As you see, I think you've learned a lot, like I did too, especially if you're not from engineering. And if you're from engineering, then he gave us a lot of tips today about, postgraduate studies and studying in Japan as an engineer. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another episode. Bye bye.